It didn't listen to me. It walked out of the thicket. It turned around and looked at me.
They looked up, and in this tree, there was a monkey man. And the monkey man jumped down out of the tree and started running away.
And suddenly they're right in front of the car. He slams on the brakes and manages to stop. And he's skidding because it's like quite, gravelly. And literally for about a second and a half, they just stood there because they don't know where to go. And you tell them panicking. They're like really nothing. Their face is like twitching.
Welcome back to Bigfoot Society. This is your host, Jeremiah Byron. Every week I talk to different people in the cryptozoology field. You never know who's going to be on next week. If you'd like to sponsor the show, head on over to patreon.com/the Bigfoot Society. You get access to a ton of things there, including a close-knit cryptid community on Discord where you can connect with like-minded cryptid researchers and enthusiasts, weekly bonus content, the ability to hang out with each week's guest after the main show, exclusive merch, and much, much more. In this episode, I get to talk to a good friend, Mr. Andrew Peterson from Unknown Midwest. It's a great episode talking about all sorts of different Midwest cryptids, talking about Andrew's involvement with small-town monsters as a filmmaker over the years. It's just a fun time. Good friend, Andrew, and I and Matt, we're always going to the Van Meter Visitor Festival, so it's fun to have Andrew come on and chat about his passion project, Unknown Midwest. You're really going to enjoy this, so sit back, relax, and have a great time listening to Bigfoot Society podcast. All right, Bigfoot Society, we're back for another episode, this time with my good friend, Mr. Andrew Peterson from Unknown Midwest. And I do mean, whenever I say good friend or new friend, I always mean that. But like Andrew is actually like, I've worked with him in the trenches of the fruit stand, which we won't mention the name. And, we've gone to the Van Meter Visitor together, but I'm so glad to have you on, bud. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here. This has been a long time coming. I feel like it's years in the making, and it's so fun to actually be here. Oh man, I'm excited just to chat. This is going to be so much fun. Like it's going to be the Unknown Midwest Bigfoot Society variety hour that we've always wanted. So
it really will be. It will be. For the people that may not know, if you're not in the Patreon Discord, Andrew is an Iowa filmmaker and cinematographer with a passion for the strange and unknown. Married these two passions together. He's worked with the STM Crew. And also started a blog that's recently restarted, Unknown Midwest. So, which, let's talk about that now. So, the cool thing is I've shared some stories about the background of Bigfoot Society, but like, there's some that I haven't shared about, and I feel like we need to kind of start there with the story about, because your stuff really, my stuff would not be here without your stuff it's very weird, but
I would say that like the thing is like you were a major part of us or me, whatever, however you want to put that, like Unknown Midwest becoming a thing originally because you also co-wrote, and I mean we'll bring up some of your articles tonight. Like
that's true.
It's really kind of cool, like going back and looking at the old website as I rebuild the new one and go, wow, like we wrote a lot of good stuff. And it was like, we also left enough room for things to change in the future. And now it's time to change in the future.
Exactly.
And I remember like, even I was like, hey, Jeremiah, here's this article. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to put this up on my blog. Because it's like, you get to repurpose the stuff that no one gets to see anymore because the website's been shut down. So
yeah, that was really fun. Like I remember writing an article about the Van Meter Visitor, which actually was linked to on Astonishing Legends website.
Yeah.
Which is pretty amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that whole thing. So, I mean, the best part about our adventure together was, yes, we worked at a fruit store together. Right. But the thing is, like, I had left and I'd gone down to Kansas City and I'd come back. I came back without a car though,
Mhm.
and you used to drive Uber,
I did.
and I mean, we always talked about the spooky stuff. Like I remember giving you Ghost Hunters DVDs, and you were like,
Oh.
"Oh, I don't know if I want to watch these."
I forgot about that
Yeah,
stuff.
but
It's so funny.
yeah, I remember dropping those off, and you're like, "Oh, I don't really know if I'm
I
gonna
don't
watch
know.
these." And then you're like, I got like one episode in, and I'm good." And I'm just like, "That's fine, do your thing."
Yeah, you know.
But relating to you being an Uber driver, I worked for a technology part of an
Right.
education agency.
Yep.
And I would take Uber some days when I just didn't feel like getting on the bus and, saving money to buy a car and all that kind of fun stuff. And lo and behold, it was you driving me home.
It's wild.
And I go, Jeremiah, I have a crazy idea. I kind of want to start a blog about all the spooky stuff we used to talk about. And we hadn't had a long conversation in a while.
No.
But that 30-minute Uber ride back to my house was like perfect. And we just kind of dove in everything, and you're like, oh, I really want to get back into like talking about Bigfoot. Like I love it. I remember like my dad showing me all the stuff I'm in search of, and
Exactly.
I just love it. And I was like, dude, let's partner up.
Let's do it.
And then we'll just jam.
Mm-hmm.
And Unknown Midwest was a great way for me to get into blogging and back into like a creative like mindset. Because I had taken a couple years off just to kind of reset like what I wanted to do. And I had a good friend at the same time that we started a blog about Des Moines, and that kind of, I had so much going on in this time of my life, and it was,
that's right. I totally forgot about that, man. That's wild.
You were also, I think, the first or second interview on our Des Moines blog.
That's right. Yeah. I
so
was. Yeah.
Because it was kind of like a Humans of New York meets like Des Moines, and like talking about Midwestern like creators and just people in general that made the city cool.
Exactly.
So I just remember being like, hey, friend that's developing this website and person who's also helped me write this blog, I want to learn how to do this more. Can you help me like get the ground rolling with this? And then I transformed it. And I remember I was like on a podcast called Deviatus. I don't know if that's still around. But it's changed its name. Yeah, it was fun. I like went into like some like ghosts like stories that I had from like my past and what kind of got me into it, and like some personal experiences that were bonkers and still don't make sense.
Yeah, dude.
But it was cool because I remember hearing there was a radio show, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it was Jason Hawes, and then he had a co-host, and Seth Breedlove was on it.
Yep.
And I remember DM'd Seth on Instagram, and he responded back, and he's like, "Oh, I love the website." I was like, "What? You actually read this stuff?" And it was kind of a cool thing because it was like meshing our two worlds. And at the same time, I was also getting back into like taking photos and filmmaking and stuff. And like I always have a camera in my hand. So whether it was a phone or like an actual camera.
Yep.
So getting the chance to basically start doing the blog that we were doing for the city, making videos, Seth was like, hey, if you do this, like come along and like, let's go up to Bray Road and we'll like chat shop and, work together. So it's kind of like how my evolution changed. But then like shortly after I got back from like working on Bray Road or for the day and a half that I was there, it was crazy because like my filmmaking journey kind of started like that week, because I left filming with Seth to go premiere a really experimental short film for a buddy's like poetry like contest.
Okay.
And then literally like that week, everybody was like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? And then it was like, I had to put Unknown Midwest to the side because I had to focus on my new career. So, but dude, looking back at those times, it was crazy. Cause like we would have like chats, like we text and like just share all this crazy knowledge that we had. Like, I think that was like kind of like even pre like Skinwalker Ranch. And then like,
oh yeah, big time.
All of those things, like we'd share like podcasts with each other. We'd share movies. We'd watch movies. Like Seth would send me a screener, and I'd be like, "Hey, yo, like watch this with me."
Hypothetically, that may have happened.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we like I definitely like invited you over and like watched if you could, and like
no, it was awesome, dude.
Yeah, it was a fun time because like we got to. The thing is, to me, it's crazy seeing how the community's changed from when I started. It was such a niche thing. and it was like, I don't know what you would really kind of call it, but it was so like in the background that not a lot of people knew about it. Like the true crime thing was really big.
Yep.
And the paranormal stuff just hadn't hit yet.
Right.
And then all of a sudden it was just like, after I left, it just exploded. And I was like, oh,
It
whoops.
literally, the stuff you were doing at that time was a few years too early. It's really weird how that worked out, but it is what it is. And
live and learn.
we're getting back at it now, but it's crazy. So first off, so I want to make sure that I had this thought, like, I wish you could almost figure out like the odds of us, like of me getting you in an Uber, which like crazy odds for that to happen, but it affected so much. Also, so there's going to be a few people that are listening to this that are going to be really interested. So like you got to go up and work with Seth in Wisconsin for the Beast of Bray Road doc. So what was it exactly that you were able to help out with up there?
So, I mean, my whole like adventure up there was just honestly to just meet them.
Okay.
So Seth was like, "Hey, we're filming. You're like 4 or 5 hours away. You just want to come up and like hang out." So it was nice just because it's like I had listened to like Sasquatch, and I had listened to like his like his radio stuff, and it was kind of like Seth was doing something that I wanted to do eventually, right? And he was like basically working with all his buddies, kind of like I was working with all my buddies on this blog, right? And it was kind of like one of those like real recognize real type of situations where I was like, we're both like looking at these things in different lenses, and we want to figure out what like the human side is. We want to figure out how to like just basically share this with like a new audience or group of people that actually care and want to learn more about it. So basically it was just us hanging out. But when I got there, it was great because I got to meet like the OG kind of STM crew.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it was really fun because like Santina was there, and then I'm trying to remember if Brandon was there. I know Jason was there. Zach, of course. But it was cool because it was like I had been doing a lot of like personal filmmaking, and I'd worked with like some crews at that point. So it was just like the day I was there, they were interviewing the it was like the animal control officer, and I don't remember his name right now. Right. Which was a crazy story, but it was fun because I got to go help them set up and like help them like figure out the lighting and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of just be a fly on the wall and kind of enjoy that moment. I think the funnest takeaway from that entire experience was like basically showing up I think probably like 10 or 11 at night, and I joked with somebody on this like after show a couple weeks ago, or actually just on Friday, that Wisconsin is an extra special kind of dark. Once it hits night, there's no extra light in Wisconsin. It's just strange because they just don't have like street lights like you have in Des Moines, or even like in some rural like parts of Iowa where there's just like a good little street light. And it was like misty and dark, and then Seth's like, do you want to go check out the road? And I'm like, yeah, totally. And I'm pretty sure I threw like an expletive in there because I was so excited. And Mark Matsky's like, oh no, earmuffs. And I'm just like, oh, sorry. So
that's totally Mark thing to do. That's hilarious.
I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was way too excited. I didn't realize that, Andy was like, young Andy was like hanging out in the background.
Oh yeah, because like, Andy would have been so young at that time.
Whoops.
That's wild. Well,
sorry. But anyway,
kids got to grow up,
But it was cool. Like we basically just drove down the road, and they were talking about the day before that they had a deer that ran in front of their car and freaked them out. And I was like, dude, we're going to see something. Like, it was just like, we're all just messing around with each other, but it was just like, it was an extra kind of spooky kind of area to be on because, you read Linda Godfrey's book, you watch all the Monster Quest stuff, and you just expect this like road to just be like a terror, like just haven, right? And it's just a road, and there's some trees, and there's a farm or two, and then there's like the Skinwalker Ranch in Wisconsin just to your left, and like there's all these kind of random things that are on that road, but it's just a small little unassuming road that just had some creepy stuff happen. So, but yeah, it was a fun hangout, and then of course that kind of led to like Seth and I worked on UFOs with him, which was really fun. And then Seth approached me with something, which we kind of hint at like you being involved with. like with Terror in the Skies, and then there was supposed to be something else that happened, but it was super top secret, and I was the one who like kind of couldn't hold up my end of the bargain because I was so busy and I just couldn't manage.
It is what it is, you know.
So,
there's so many alternate
Mhm.
universes out there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking like.
Mhm.
It's all coming back to me now, dude. Like,
Yeah.
look what I got right here.
Mhm.
Boom. Can you see it?
So good.
Check this
That
out.
was
You
such a
ready?
fun shoot. I think you've talked about
Oh.
it. Oh man, I think you've talked about it on that on this podcast before, and I know
Yeah.
I think Seth even brought it up with you. But it was such a fun thing because it was kind of like one of the things I always wanted to do was like, let's tell a story about something
Mhm.
native to Iowa.
Exactly.
And then we got to basically weave in with Chad Lewis and Kevin. Oh no,
Kevin Lee Nelson.
Kevin Lee Nelson.
Yep.
Oh man. And then Steve Ward was there as well to talk.
Oh, Steve Ward.
Steve Ward. I felt so bad making Steve Ward climb up all those steps in that dingy old warehouse. But it was a really fun shoot because it was like I remember Chad coming in and being like, whoa, this isn't like just some like podunk production. Like you've got lights and stuff all set up and like we soundproof that whole warehouse.
Good.
And I remember just being like, hey, Jeremiah, I know you just came to hang out. You're going to interview all these folks. Thanks. And you were like, what? And I was like, yeah. You're welcome to the crew. But that was a fun time. Like my buddy Tobias like still talks about that to this day. He was like, yo, you remember when we interviewed all those like monster hunters? And I was like, yeah, we need to do that again.
Cool, dude.
So
it's that whole and you're right. I have talked about this before, but this is interesting because it's a different viewpoint, you know. But the whole thing where like, you know, I was there, I thought I was there to just kind of hang out, and then you were like, come up with questions and blah blah blah, which is literally like if you had never done that, I would never have like fallen in love with interviewing and started Bigfoot Society. Would never have happened 100%.
I mean, the thing is like I trusted you in that situation. I knew you'd be good.
Yeah.
Like you had a knowledge of what we were talking about.
True.
And it's like I think one of the things that's hard about filmmaking or people don't understand, or like people that are really good at it, for example, like they can do like solo interviews or kind of do solo shooting, are just they're like another level of like their brain can focus on so many different things. And my thing was like I wasn't going to let Seth down by like letting a camera stop.
Oh, totally.
Or like have the audio cut out or whatever else. And I was just like, I need somebody to focus on this camera and this setup, because we were shooting 4 cameras, which was overkill.
It was wild, dude.
And Seth, I think, was even like, you guys shot 4 cameras? And I was like, yeah, because I'm just extra. I'm sorry. I have 4 cameras. I'm going to use all of them.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it was like, it worked because I wanted to give Seth like a bunch of like cutting options.
Exactly.
Because the thing is, like when you shoot interviews, you have to like, people say or and they think about things and you have to cut away and like act like it never happened. But
exactly.
Anyway, the thing is like when I'm in my role, it's like that's like my one thing that I'm focusing on, like pure and simple. And being able to like focus on all the other like things that are happening, and then also ask intelligent interview questions and then follow-up questions. And then also like hunt for those thoughts is very tricky. And I was like, Jeremiah is really good about asking questions and is a really good listener. So I'm just going to ask him to do it. And I know he's going to say yes, because he loves Chad Lewis and he loves these guys. And the thing is, but the thing is, like, you already had open communication with those guys too. And like I
that's true. Yeah, that's true. We did. Yeah.
It was more comfortable for them to just respond to your questions. And I think it came through in that film because they gave very thoughtful answers and vice versa to the questions that you were asking. So yeah. I am glad that kind of spurred maybe this on, but I think that's also just kind of your inert kind of person. Like you're curious and you know how to ask questions, and you do a great job of interviewing. So
thank you.
Yeah, man.
I appreciate that, dude. And you would tell me if I wasn't, which is something that I appreciate about you. You and Matt are very honest with your feedback. Fruit stand.
And that's how we grow, man. That's how we grow.
Exactly. So before there's a certain point in this, I want to kind of reach into your unknown Midwest knowledge, but not quite yet. There's a few things I want to do before we get there. We kind of alluded to it already that you were also involved with STM with On the Trail of UFOs. Would you be all right? Like, how was that experience for you? Because you were actually going out there. You were in the midst of it in West Virginia.
It was insane. So the thing is, like, I love that experience. I think Seth kind of pushed me to boundaries that I didn't know that I could like be a part of. And it was also like one of those things where it's like, I really enjoyed my trip. I wish that I would have like been a little bit more in shape, like I am now, like able to like hustle around with like a bunch of equipment and stuff, because like we were like, I felt super bad because I was having, I got hurt on a shoot like prior to going on this, and I had like some issues with my back and like sciatica kind of like nerve thing. Yeah, just don't live heavy lights by yourself. And then anyway, long story short, we were hiking up a cliff and I'm zonked because my back's hurting. I'm like just trying to like keep up, and I'm just like, I'm really sorry that I'm holding everybody up. But yeah, it was fun because like Seth moves really quick, and it's one of those things where we jammed so much into those days that it was a kind of a good filmmaking test for me to shoot documentaries. And I loved every minute of it. It was just fast paced and like pulling together all these awesome interviews. And then it kind of all culminated with us going to like Dolly Sods, which is,
sure.
I mean, as you probably see in the film, it's like, it's like the true dark skyland, right? So it's super high elevation. We're like climbing over like crevices, like, you know, jumping over like a couple foot gaps just to, you know, get to where we're going. And it was crazy because Mothboy Matt we were there. He was there with Shannon, and they keep on like seeing these lights, and I'm just like, all right, I'll go hang out with them.
Okay.
And that's where like Shannon's like, oh, well, it's kind of like that light. And I just point my camera up and focus it up. And then you just see a little light just like, and then it just blinks out.
Man.
Which it's really fun. I don't know. I think Seth said that something happened with that footage. I'm pretty sure it made it into the film, but he was like trying to figure out what exactly we were talking about. And he like did his best to kind of like show it, because the problem is we're shooting at such a high sensitivity on that camera. And it wasn't really truly like it's not a night vision camera. It can basically see in the dark, but it's not like a night vision, like astroscope. Right. So you can see it in the film, like kind of like go across the screen and then just disappear. But it was crazy because like, I wasn't expecting to like see anything weird. And like, I remember like we were looking at our, I pulled up what is it, Stars or the
to see the plans and stuff.
Basically looking that, and then the star map type stuff, just to see if there's a satellite, and there was like no satellite in that area. So, you know, like my rational brain's like, okay, that was just a plane. And then it was like, planes just don't disappear. It was just like, I was shooting, we were like shooting that light because in honesty, we were just trying to capture like something that was moving, and like something that could have been what they saw, because we weren't sure if it was a plane or not, because it was kind of blinking in a weird way, but it just vanished right in the middle of the picture, just disappears. And it was kind of cool, like reliving that moment, like watching the film, because I kind of was like, I'm not no scientist, but that was weird, you know, like
I don't know.
Yeah, it was really funny, like re-seeing that and just reliving that moment, because it was really strange. Like, we don't know what it was. Could it be like, it's probably not a UFO, but it was still definitely something super strange that like, I mean, I guess it's technically a UFO. You don't know what it is, and it's flying.
That's true. It checks out. It technically has the definition.
Right.
Yeah. I heard there was some weird stuff that happened in that shoot. Because I remember seeing the behind the scenes stuff, because it's in STM Squad. If you go far enough back on the community tab, and it's pretty interesting stuff.
Well, the place that I think you had commented on some photos of them like doing their retreat like this week.
That's the same place.
That was the same. So that was the
church camp.
Same Airbnb or church camp or whatever we want to call it. We stayed for to do like if you watch that movie, that's where we did like the fire pit interviews and whatnot. But that place is crazy because I cannot think of the guy's name. I was going to rewatch this last night just to pull this guy's name out, but he was a naturalist. So basically that scene is, go ahead.
Was it Is it Purdue?
Might be. I'm kind of ashamed that I don't remember.
That's all right. That's all right.
But yeah, it's basically there's a guy in a leather jacket, and then this guy is a naturalist.
Oh, it's Ron Lanham and Joe Purdue.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yep.
That's totally it.
Yep.
But it was great because like, so we went off into the woods because like I'm with Bigfoot guys. Like they gotta go check for Squatch, right?
Exactly.
So it was definitely interesting because like we're walking around with like EMF meters and like kind of it's almost like a ghost hunt.
Yeah.
That's where I don't know if it made it to the STM squad thing, but like Seth with like the Civil War soldiers thing. I don't know if that made it. Maybe that's a deep
I don't
plug.
know.
He was basically like requesting Civil War soldiers to come out and show themselves.
Oh,
Because
snap.
we're in West Virginia, but I'm pretty sure that made it to the STM squad.
That's
It was a
wild.
fun moment, but
All
the thing is, like, while that was happening, though, like we're walking through like a dip in the forest, and like EMF meters kind of doing some weird things, which it's kind of cool that like you're bringing ghost hunting equipment out to like a Bigfoot hunt, which that was kind of an interesting kind of parallel to me. It's like, that's smart. If you see something spooky or see some lights, maybe it'll change some EMF fields, and then you can actually capture some data on that. But that was cool because like you get to go out in the forest with those guys, and then there's weird sounds. I think it's really hard for people that are not used to being in the woods a lot to get like acquainted with it. Because for example, like when we first got there, you get out of the car and you've been in a car for hours and then on an airplane and everything else, right? Like a squirrel sounds massive in the woods because your brain is like clicking back into caveman era, and you're like, oh my god, what's going to get me? And it's a squirrel or it's a chicken. Like it's like, so but the thing is, especially at night, because your brain is like hyper focused on everything, so any sound like just becomes amplified in an interesting way. And I remember when I was I went to school in South Carolina, and I was in Civil Air Patrol, and we did like search and rescue training. That stuff is really helpful. Like your brain, like clicking into those kind of like survival modes or like hyper focus modes are really important. And if you like harness those well, it like makes you very adapt to the woods. So like, if you're like hunting for a person who might have like been in a plane crash or like missing in the woods, those little cracks in the woods can maybe alert you like where to go or, to find something. So it was really interesting hanging out with those guys because they're used to being out in the woods at night, like looking for squatch. And then, they hear a tree knock and they're like, whoa, did you hear that? And we're like, yeah, that was really weird. Like, what's going on? And then, we walk back to the cabin and we have a nice little discussion about like basically the woods and like what Sasquatch could be, and like all these deep conversations that, kind of pop up when you're out in the woods and like looking for weird stuff. So it was definitely a very fun experience for me because it wasn't just UFOs and it wasn't just aliens. It wasn't just like Indrid Cold. Like,
right.
It wasn't all the honestly stopping at the spot where Darren Berger met Indrid Cold was really cool.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
It's all those kind of elements that kind of come together just to, it left a really good impression on me. So it was really fun hanging out with those guys. I wish I could do it again. I'll be honest.
Well, I mean, I remember you were so pumped about that whole situation. It was very, very cool. Yeah. And I was happy that you were able to go out there. I have a question or so that is off script, so get ready. But recently in my episodes, I've wanted to put things in where the guest gives really like specific advice, because there are people listening to this that are just wanting probably to get into, what you're doing, which is, using your talents as a filmmaker and maybe making films based on, cryptids, legends, stuff like that, potentially. Yeah. So do you have any advice to filmmakers just starting out, or maybe, people that don't have the amazing camera that you have, but they do have an iPhone, or something like that? Anything like that?
I think where it comes down to, well, if I just breaking down to like where I started, and where I'm at now, I think the main thing is, I would say, be a good listener, because the thing is, like, you can learn a lot from people around you. You can also learn a lot, just from like communities in a way. So like finding a community is like the biggest part, right?
Sure.
Because I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't just like send a couple texts or DMs or be like, hey, let me work for free. I'll hold drinks. I just want to like see how this works. Right.
Yep.
And that's how I met and work with like one of my good cinematographer friends, Bruce James Bales. Like, it's crazy that it was crazy because I think he actually hit me up first and was like, hey, I really want to work with you and like just hold drinks. And I'm like, no. But I want to do that for you because you're way more advanced than I am. I'm just doing my best to like make cool stuff. And then, postmark, 6-7 years later, and like I'm directing a film and he's the one shooting it for me. So
that's wild.
It's just those kind of things. I think to me, it's like, just listen, have some humility, like be humble. Don't try too much at once. And then just try to find some like-minded people that just want to do cool stuff. And then just at the end of the day, just like listen to what everybody's doing and then just keep going. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. Community is number one, dude. And like, you get yourselves in a community of like-minded people, and then the connections start in that, and then the stuff starts getting created out of that community. That's when like the magic starts happening. So
100%. The work doesn't really feel like work. It's just like you hanging out with your friends and then you made something really cool.
Exactly.
So,
dude, I love it. That is really, really good advice. Let's talk about, so we are going to talk about some cool cases about. Are you comfortable with talking about your plans for future with films at this time? Perhaps.
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the thing is, like, so because I was bringing back Unknown Midwest. One of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to try and do. I didn't want to do documentary stuff because I think there's already great people doing documentary work, and that's not my place. Like I come from a land of like narrative film where we get to tell stories basically through cinema, right? So I just finished my first written and directed film, which honestly maybe I'll give it to your Discord guys first so they can tear me apart.
Oh, dude, they would be all about it, and they'll give you good feedback too. You should do it.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But I would love. The thing is, this your community is one of those communities where I'd be like, hey, tell me how you feel about this, because I feel like they're very open. They're very grateful people. Join us Patreon anyway.
Thank you.
They're great. But when it comes down to like Unknown Midwest and what I want to do is like, since I have so many narrative filmmakers and I've met so many great actors. I'd like to try to spend a couple weekends or however long it takes to actually try and retell some stories. And I may or may not have sent you a script. And I think, between you and our buddy Matt, I was really excited about how you guys felt about it.
Dude, it was awesome.
So that, right now I'm having some trouble with locations, but the thing is, the goal that we have in mind is to shoot this short in August.
Okay.
We're going to try to do it as well. It's going to be at least period accurate. The issue we're kind of coming down to is rural homes of, say, the 1970s are a little bit hard to find.
Interesting.
And it's also not like you want to tell somebody like, hey, you got a crusty house. Can I shoot a movie here?
I really like it.
So it's, like, for example, like I work for a studio in Iowa, named Studio Iowa. Great name. So we also, I also have connections through Produce Iowa as well. So, I mean, we've sent off a couple of emails to them, like looking for locations to shoot.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Now, the thing is, of course, this isn't an Iowa legend. It's an Enfield, Indiana legend.
Or in Enfield, Illinois, as it were.
Oh, crap. Did I say that wrong?
Is it
Illinois?
Wink.
I thought it was Indiana. Well, you know what?
Absolutely. Dude,
oh, no.
I've said stuff on here you wouldn't believe that I've cut out. Wink.
Yeah. Well, I definitely looked at my notes for something else, and I probably read the wrong state. But anyway, the main crux of that's going to be taking place in Enfield, which AKA means the Enfield Horror.
Exactly.
So, I mean, not to give away too much, but the main crux of the story is going to be told by Henry McDaniel, Henry Jr., and Lil. And of course, we'll start with basically the good old kid getting his shoes attacked. So,
oh man,
it's going to be really fun filming that.
Awesome.
Everybody on my crew that I've kind of shared it with, and then external crews are like, yeah, we need to do this because it's just. And then you tell them like, oh yeah, this actually happened, and they're like, no, it didn't. And I was like, yeah, hey, read this, listen to this, like. So it's been really kind of fun. And the thing is, like, I feel like I always like read people like Henry McDaniel's like sighting report and goes, I'm just gonna read it because I just love it because it had it had 3 legs, a short body, 2 little short arms, and 2 pink flashlight eyes. It stood 4.5 feet tall, was grayish in color, and it tried to get in the house.
Oh,
like that's a movie pitch as it is right there. Like that's all you have to tell people. They're like, yeah, I need to see that. So it's crazy like going through that lore, especially with Enfield, because I don't think we're gonna get quite as deep as like the guys like Rick Rainbow, which was like the radio DJ in town that in good old Kokomo that was like, I'm gonna go out and try to hunt this beast. And
Rick Rainbow,
yeah, could you like I like Rick Rainbow in the morning, get the lead out, you know. Yeah, so I love that because the thing is like our favorite one of my favorite people, Lauren Coleman shows up into that.
It's wild. Yeah.
So it's a great story. Like basically, there's somebody out there that has this issue of fate, but there's an issue of fate where it's John Keel and Lauren Coleman. I guess that's not Colm Kelleher. That's not the right name. But there's another guy in there. Yeah, Colm Kelleher didn't go back in the past just to write something about Enfield, but I cannot think of the guy's name. But anyway, it's late. Our full day.
Exactly.
But the two, like basically having John Keel and Lauren Coleman write something about this. I think it was like Swamp Slavs invade Illinois or something like that. I need to find that article because I just want to read it and kind of see what they say about it. I mean, I know Lauren Coleman like went in, supposedly like heard the sounds, which were like cat hissing kind of yells. And then they were supposedly recorded. And I've asked somebody to ask Lauren Coleman about those tapes, and he's like, I can't find them.
Oh no, yeah.
So I mean, he's got a huge inventory of stuff. Like I'm not expecting him to find a cassette from the 70s, but it would be so cool to hear that sound.
Right.
And the crazy thing is, like, I mean, I know people have asked, like, called the radio station, and be like, hey, do you have this recording? And they're like, yeah, we don't have it. Sorry, bud, go. So I think the main crux of what we're going to do is just try to like put people in those scenarios. So and just kind of see what happens. Like it'll be a fun adventure for us just because it's, like we don't have like Hollywood budgets, it's basically still like indie filmmaking, but it's we're just trying to do something a little bit different. And I think telling those kind of stories and just like, posting them on YouTube or wherever they're going to end up living is just going to be kind of fun because I think in the bite-sized short film kind of narrative realm, like sharing those kind of stories and giving them like a good polished look is something that people can share and be like, whoa, did you see this kind of thing? And then like, who knows? I would love to do a couple more than just Enfield. Like we've talked about. I mean, I shot footage of the Van Meter Visitor Fest last year. I shot a lot of footage.
And it was awesome.
So, I mean, it would be great to do like a micro doc about Van Meter, just for Van Meter. Like
that would be really cool.
So there's things that I want to do with my skill set and my ability. And the thing is, like we talked about the Van Meter thing being not really just about the monster, but all the people that are keeping the monster alive. Right. Yeah. So,
which is a really cool take on it. And I liked how you had brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's on the, like the short list. I'll put it that way. Like Enfield's going to get done in August. Like I know it's going to get done in August. And like,
that's awesome.
Even if we have to kind of cut a couple corners just to make like, kind of lose a little bit of like the reality. Like if they end up living in a little bit nicer house that's still 70s like era, like I would rather at least get the emotion out and share that story and then maybe revisit it once we actually have a crazy budget and can actually tell the full story. But I think to me, it's like I kind of want to go whiplash with it. Like if I get some people excited about it, like please give me a budget and I'll tell the whole story. That's my
that'd be
So,
cool, dude.
Yeah,
dude, totally.
So
the thing about this community is like, if someone wants to make something really cool,
yeah,
the Tom Slicks will come out of the woodwork, my friend, and they will be people you would not like imagine, because like they're amazing people, and like the passion for the cryptozoology community is deep, dude. It's awesome.
I think that when I look at things like Enfield, there's like one of my favorite parts is like the sheriff, like Sheriff Bashard, because he is like, I'm not taking this in my small town, like, because it's like, you better stop talking about them gray aliens, because like I'm not putting up with that, you know. So it's you have like this, you have so many different little storylines, and then you have, of course, like the events themselves. Like one of the big things with good old Mr. Rainbow is the fact that he saw a creature that was like hairy, right? Which then like equates to like other like cryptozoology things, because you know, like there's like what are they, like devil apes or devil monkeys, you know, there's phantom kangaroos, which this thing could have been.
That's
like
right,
there's all these different angles that it could go, and you know, it's crazy, because like there was even another case in Mount Vernon, which is in that kind of similar area. I think it's a couple, like maybe like 40-50 miles away, where back in the 30s they had people seeing like a baboon type creature.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting, because you have like ape encounters, and like that animal's not supposed to be here. What's that animal doing here? So like whether it be like a phantom kangaroo or like a devil monkey or something that's just like, there's fun stories to be fleshed out, and I think putting them in a different viewing pattern might enlighten people to kind of research and keep those kind of stories alive. Otherwise they're just going to go away.
Dude, the Midwest is totally unknown. Once you get, like, we get a lot of people like, oh yeah, Midwest, lame. But like when you look into it, there's weird stuff out here, man. And like the Little Egypt, Southern Illinois, great example. I remember the year of the festival when they were talking about the Skinwalker Ranch of Missouri.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, and that's just starting to come out now. A few years later, people are actually talking about it on podcasts. I think it was like the code name is like Marley Woods, something like that.
Yeah, Marley Woods is weird, man. I've heard about it, and I need to like start not researching, but like reading up on it and kind of see what that kind of leads. But it's the same kind of thing with like Bray Road. Like you have you have some really weird, like, I don't know if they're window areas or how you really want to equate them, but there's some weird stuff. And there's a lot of things that like connect. Like I'm not embarrassed to say that I've probably watched Hellier like 6 or 7 times, like all the way through.
That's amazing.
I love it. I think the thing is, I think more people need.
It's good stuff.
It is good stuff. And I think the first time people watch it, they're like, oh, they just saw a tin can. They're making this stuff up. And it's like, no. Read what they're talking about, or like actually like listen to what they're saying. And it's like, I think people think that they jump to conclusions too many times, but the thing is, what they're trying to really tell you is like, this is what it's really like being in a paranormal event, or a just kind of going down a rabbit hole of like kind of weird synchronicities, because they all kind of lead to one thing, right? So for example, I remember listening to a podcast about the Loveland Frog. And they were talking about, of course, you know, it like smells of like almonds and alfalfa, and is green, and has a cape and like a wand. Well, then you watch Hellier, and like one of the things from Hellier is like, oh, we saw this thing with a cape and a wand.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, okay, well, like that's Ohio, that's Kentucky, and there's like all these things that connect, right? So I think the thing is, people have to be a little bit more open to what possibilities there are out there, because a lot of times and it was pointed out in Hellier, and I kind of really believe it, is if like Bigfoot people talk to like ghost hunters, and ghost hunters talk to guys that are like looking into UFOs, they're going to be surprised how many like parallels and things that actually connect. It's kind of like the guys in West Virginia taking an EMF detector looking for Bigfoot.
Exactly.
It's like there's a lot of room for people just to communicate, and that was kind of one of my original goals with Unknown Midwest back in the day, was let's build a community and just talk about the stuff.
Exactly.
And let's just talk about everything, because something has to connect, right? So
yeah, dude. It's not just like, I mean, the Midwest has weird stuff in it. Like you can and you can get really specific. Like you can just look into Iowa.
Oh yeah.
And there's like wild stuff. Like if you look in Weatherly's new book,
yeah,
this one,
hey,
super good. My goodness.
Well, it's like the thing is too with like Iowa. We talk about you writing articles back in the day. Like you wrote a Bigfoot article for Unknown Midwest back in the day on Lockridge, Iowa.
Lockridge, yeah, dude. Oh man, yeah.
So I mean, you have like some hairy creature like basically walking up into a farm and just kind of wreaking some havoc, and then the people have no idea what's going on. So it's that kind of stuff. I mean, that KGGO interview with the gentleman from New York that's looking into like Bigfoot stuff in Iowa.
Well, he saw my.
Well, yeah, you're trendsetter, bud. You're big
easier
now.
So he saw my TikTok, and like, because he's the guy who did the Squatch Iowa documentary. I don't know if you. Yeah,
I have not seen that yet, but
I haven't either. But
yeah, man, I've got so much stuff. I think we were discussing this before. Like, I've got so much stuff to like catch up on. And that list is only getting longer, and I'm going to be old and gray by the time I finish it. And then it's going to be 2025. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the Lockridge monster is weird because it's like, if you start digging into that whole area of Jefferson County, Iowa, which is like east of Des Moines, central Iowa, dude, there's lots of weird Iowa 70s reports. Stuff that is documented, and I'll say stuff that is not documented in paper form, and I have to leave it there.
Yeah.
But dude, and I don't think I know Weatherly does like do an amazing job, like 80 pages of Bigfoot reports, but like the Jefferson County Bigfoot area, there's like a Bigfoot 70s flap or something, dude. It's wild.
The thing that I thought was interesting too, and I remember reading your article back in the day, that it wasn't like super tall. It was like 5 feet.
Yes, exactly.
So it's like, okay, well, if it's 5 feet and you got a couple of those, like maybe things that have adapted to like a Midwestern climate, right? Those are just going to hide in the corn all day long. Like you're never going to see them. Because I mean, the thing is, like, I mean, I'm 5'9", and I think even the photo you shared of me, like in the cornfield, like, it's just arcing over me. Like you just disappear. And the thing is, it's also like, it's weird. Like if you get into corn, sometimes it kind of just like holds sound. So it gets extra creepy. Like, but yeah, I mean, the thing is, if something adapts to like migrating or vice versa, like, yeah, you could hide a creature like that and they have food. Like, it's gonna be fine. So yeah.
Shannon has at least one episode way back where it's her talking to, I believe it's an interview with someone from southern Iowa somewhere about Bigfoot reports of them in cornfields, and it's some creepy stuff, dude. Definitely worth another listen.
Right. I need to check that out. Like Shannon does a great job. I remember when like back in the day, like I would listen to Into the Fray, Beyond Reality Radio, which is the show that I couldn't think of earlier.
Oh yeah, right.
And then like I think the Kryptonaut guys started around that same time, so it was really kind of, there's a lot of things that were like feeding my interests. And it's one of those things, you hear somebody talk about that kind of stuff on a podcast, and you're like, well, wait, where else does this go from here? And then you start reading. I think the thing is, like, my goal is like, there's so much stuff in print format, like I said, like in old Fate magazines or just books, for example. Like, I don't think enough people maybe read enough books. Like, it's just like, oh, if it's not on Google, it doesn't exist. It's like, no, someone wrote about this in the 50s, and it's makes sense to like read it again now. So
it's even worse than that. It's even to the point now where it's like, well, people talked about this in the 90s, and it's like, that's 30 years ago. And like, even that stuff, like, people don't remember it. It's wild,
don't remind me that was 30 years ago.
Gross. Yeah. So we've talked about your future aspirations with film. Kind of at the end of the show, I'm just curious, do you have any other like really favorite Midwest like cryptid cases or UFO stories, anything that like jumps out to your mind as we have a few minutes left here?
One of my favorite things is, like, have you heard of the Vargas Trails Hairy Man?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I actually haven't, and I'm excited to hear about it.
Okay. So, funny enough, I know Jack Osborne has a show popping up, like, with Bigfoot, right? Or maybe that's already out.
No, this weekend.
Okay.
This Sunday it's coming out. Yeah.
Well, if you need like throwback Jack Osborne, there
Okay.
was, I think it was Haunted Highway.
Oh,
I think
yeah,
this was on
totally.
Haunted Highway. I'm
Okay.
I'm like 90% sure. Otherwise, there was some other, I think there was some other like Travel Channel show that had this, but the Vargas Trail Hairy Man is almost like a Minnesotan Bigfoot,
Oh,
which
sure.
is really fun. So one of the main stories that came out of that was, I think back in the 60s or possibly even 70s, there was a woman named Cheryl Hansen was like snowmobiling as a kid.
Okay.
And as they were basically snowmobiling through this like trail area, they saw like a creature walk out and then start traipsing through the snow and then ran through and then back into the woods. But the one thing she noticed, she's like, I don't think it was a person because it's snowing, it's deep snow, and they weren't wearing shoes. So this thing was barefoot, like traipsing through, which is pretty wild because, I mean, I don't know. I mean, being a Midwesterner, you like think of Midwestern, Minnesotan snow, and it's like,
yeah, you don't mess around with that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go barefoot up in that. So
yeah.
So it was interesting though too because there's two parts of this. So somebody found like a skull that's really weird. So if you look up like Vargas Trail Hairy Man skull, it's a little sus, but it's very fun, kind of like 60s 70s like kind of Bigfoot lore. But I mean, the thing is, like, there could be something there. My favorite part about the whole story was, I think we wrote about this a long time ago, was like that it was possibly like a hermit man that just like lived in a farmstead and then would just kind of pop out. And but he was like a wild man still living in the 60s, but he was just like a hermit that lived in an old farmstead that would just like creep people out. But
oh man,
it's kind of cool because I don't know if they still do it, but I know a couple years back they did like a Vargas Trails like fun run, and it was like Bigfoot themed.
Oh, that's cool. I love that stuff.
The town definitely kind of looks up to like that old folklore and kind of brings it back. So definitely one of those fun like cryptid creature things is look up Vargas Trails, and I'm pretty positive there's a Haunted Highways episode on it with good old Jack Osborne. So
good old Jack Osborne. He's a funny dude. I'm gonna look that up. Maybe it's on Discovery Plus.
Honestly,
everything's on there.
Discovery Plus is probably one of my favorite subscriptions. It's so fun. But I think aside from that, I mean, Van Meter is like something that's really close to our heart.
Yeah, I know people are probably like, guys, you haven't talked about Van Meter. Like, what gives?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I can't do the whole Chad Lewis, like.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I really, oh man, he is such a good storyteller. When it comes down to it, like his whole depth. But I think the thing is, once you get guys like like Clarence Dunn shooting out like a window in his bank and then hiding in the safe, or like the OV White thing is still a lot for me, because you just imagine you just wake up and you're like, oh, there's a weird beast that's bat like shining a light, and then you get skunked and you just pass out, and then you're just there and you're like, I don't remember what happened last night. I just saw a beast and then I smelled the gas and I like passed out. So those two things are crazy. And then you basically have like the Sidney Gregg thing, like seeing it like crawl down the telephone line like a parrot, and then just
that's the one that gets me every time. It's just like what?
I could see it like Spielberg just makes it like happen. Like this should have been in Jurassic Park 2, like just the Van Meter visitor just attacking Jeff Goldblum. Like it's something that like that part was like, okay, here's the thing. I feel like too many people think that people back in the early 1900s or even before that were dumb. Like these people are like more in tune with nature than we are. Like they basically lived outside and they were coal miners. Like they dealt with it. So, and then even for like the high school teacher to be like, this is like some antediluvian beast that came from the hollow earth,
Yeah, dude.
So
let's go.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's not some demon, it's antediluvian. Like I just love hearing those parts of that story. And then on the flip side, I think Campfire did a
Campfire
great job.
Tales.
Yes,
Yeah,
like
so good.
they did a great job, but I love the fact that like those newspapers were like no one slept in Van Meter for weeks. Like it's wild. And then and then there's like a big gun battle with like trapping it in and like
the posse.
it's
posse scene, dude.
it's such a slow motion like Arnold Schwarzenegger moment where he's like,
my
"Como estás?" And then
Come on, do it.
Come on, come here, visit it. I've got you. No, yeah. So it's I just it needs to be like That's one of the ones where it's like, if somebody gave me like a good budget, I will just tell that story all day long. And it's like,
oh my goodness.
we have places like Living History Farms in Des Moines, which I talked to last year because I was like, I would love to use this as like a location, and they gave me some numbers, and it's like, that's doable. So I think that will be a tale that I get told eventually. I've everybody that's like worked with me, whenever we have like 15 minutes of downtime, will always ask me about the Van Meter visitor.
Exactly.
And like I have a little Van Meter cryptid comforts like patch on my camera a lot.
Yes,
so
dude.
it's something that's really close to near and dear to my heart. But I think I can't remember when we were talking about this or if we even got talked about it a lot, but something about the coal mines kind of like sparked my interest. And one of my coworkers today was like, "Oh, you doing that Bigfoot thing tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm on the podcast."
Hey, you know how it is.
Yeah. So I was like, he's like, "Well, what are you going to talk about?" I was like, "Well, it's me. I'm going to talk about Van Meter at some point." He goes, "You know about the caves and stuff, right?" I'm just like, "Okay, break this down." Yeah. So he goes, "Okay, this was I know that I've been told that there's like cave entrances around like Ingersoll and Grand in Des Moines, right? And those are two like main streets, and there's like houses, and they were
so crazy.
Yeah, you would never really imagine that there's like a cave or a coal mine or anything like that. Apparently, he goes, "Yeah, my dad used to work for the city, and anybody that's familiar with Urbandale, Iowa, apparently there is a cave or a coal mine that they closed and like sealed behind the Cobblestone Theater in Urbandale."
No way.
Yeah,
dude, that blows my mind. That's so weird.
But it's crazy because like you think like I think the thing is people forget like when it comes to the Van Meter thing, it's like how like threaded and deep and like how much coal mining actually happens around the area. And then like you basically still have history. Like we have probably history like underneath our feet right now.
Easy, yeah.
So, and it's kind of like yesterday I was up in Minnesota, like in a cave that was literally under a farm that I was shooting, and the guy was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, the cave's just like right below us. We don't have to drive." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, and there's like saber-tooth skulls down there, dude.
Oh yeah, it was nuts. I've never experienced anything like that, but when it comes down to it, it's like, yeah, if there was a creature that wanted to hide, it can just go through these cave systems, and it probably knows them better than we do. And plus, it's got a glowing beak, so it can see down there. So
yeah, dude. Oh man, there could be a whole army of visitors.
I mean, who knows, man? I mean, there's the phrase from the Register article that said it sounded like an army of Satan's imps marching up on Battle of Van Meter. But
speaking of which, did I ever tell you this? The most synchronistic thing to happen to me. So I was taking a walk one day, where we used to live in central Iowa, and I looked down, and what do I see? A plastic pterodactyl Van Meter visitor. I was like, that's it. It's synchronicity. It's the heavens saying yes. It's wild, right? It's just the weirdest thing.
That's such a fun thing. I think one of my favorite possessions right now is I have a Starbucks Frappuccino glass of brick and tile factory, like dirt and like soil.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because so funny enough, like last year when I was out filming with you and then Chad and everything else was I somehow won the gift basket. In the gift basket along
killer basket.
Oh, it was great. You got the book and like all the other fun stuff. But I looked in the very bottom and I was like, someone just like threw away the trash. Oh, that's brick and tile dirt. And I was like, that's so cool.
Man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, lucky stuff. Believe it or not, Andrew, we are at the end of the hour. I told you this one's gonna go super quick. Do you mind though taking a few minutes? I want to make sure the people know how they can keep up to date with you in Unknown Midwest and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to, if you want to, please do. You can follow along with me on Instagram and Facebook at Unknown Midwest. I'm also on Twitter at Unknown Midwest. I'm going to be getting the website up as soon as I possibly can, because it's getting close. I was hoping to have it done by this episode. Unfortunately not, but that will be unknownmidwest.com. We'll start bringing back blog posts and vice versa. Probably do some throwbacks just to get started up and kind of share what we used to do, because it's already there and ready to go. But we'll start writing some new articles and, see what happens. Otherwise, like, probably follow me like through on my own personal channels, just through those as well. So yeah, that's how you can reach out with me.
I love it, dude. Andrew, thanks so much for coming on. You are, as always, a super good friend. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, man. Thank you very much.
Real quick announcement before we head out. I've got the opportunity of going on my first Bigfoot expedition at the end of July. Currently, I'm trying to raise money to buy gear for that. If you want to specifically support Bigfoot Society and, as I go into my first Bigfoot expedition, feel free to do that by going over to the Bigfoot Society Etsy page and buying a t-shirt over there. That will help fund my gear for that expedition. You can also join the Patreon, patreon.com/Bigfoot/the Bigfoot Society. I'm about to talk about that again in a few minutes. But that's where you'll be able to see, I'll be putting some interviews from that expedition. Plan is to put some extra content directly from that expedition into the Patreon. So definitely support the podcast through there as well. Thanks. Thanks for listening to the Bigfoot Society podcast. Please take a few minutes to review the show on iTunes, 5 stars, as it does help us get into the eyes and ears of more listeners on iTunes. That will help us just get bigger and bigger and get even better quality guests for future shows. Also, if you have any Bigfoot encounters or cryptid encounters, please send your stories and audio and photos, whatever you've got, over to bigfootsociety@gmail.com. If you'd like to become more involved with Bigfoot Society and get some extra content, we do have a Patreon where you can get all sorts of cool things. For example, for $7 a month, you get extra Bigfoot Society content, usually interviews, but other things as well. You get a sweet membership card and a vinyl sticker that I send to you in the mail. You get access to the Bigfoot Society after show, which is an extra interview after the main interview with the weekly guest, and usually they are up for Patreon members to be in that extra show segment with them and me, and you get to ask your question live to them and get an answer from the guest, which, as you've seen what guest we've had in the past, this could be a really big deal. There's also a private Discord where you can get involved with talking to me one-on-one and the community there, and that's always a great time. You can find the Patreon at www.patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. We're very thankful for all our supporters that we have in so many different ways, and appreciate all our listeners coming back week after week to listen to more cryptozoology-based interviews. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. The views and opinions expressed are those of the guest and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Bigfoot Society. Any content provided by our guests are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone. Thank you.